Happy New Year, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. And I thank Ashley and the Business Resource Development Group for asking me to come and talk about this topic, which is it's really called goal setting, Future Focus 2025. But for anyone that knows me and as you get to know me, I'm all about decisions. I consider myself a decision strategist. It's all about you deciding and taking that power. So in this talk, we're going to really talk about how decision making and goal setting are really one and the same. And I'm going to teach you my framework on how I coach and how I make decisions and how I apply that to goals as well. So first, I'll tell you a little bit about me, and I'm excited that there's a lot of newer faces here that I haven't seen before, because some people know me, and the ones that don't, I'm excited to tell you about me. So top left there, that is baby Julie, 19 years old, graduating from nursing school, and that's like my favorite picture because I was like literally a child when I graduated and started taking care of patients, which is like, how is that possible? So I've been a nurse for 30 years, and most of my career was in nursing administration and as a nurse executive at an electronic medical record company, and I loved that work. And so just to give you my background, I started my coaching business, which is Julie Allyson Coaching and Retreats. You Decide is my mantra, and I started that business 3 years ago, and absolutely love to help people to really feel empowered and make bold decisions and take bold action and have conviction and clarity and all the things, and we'll talk about that. But that's what I do now with one-on-one coaching. I do workshops, I do retreats, it's all sorts of great stuff. But many of the pictures there are my family because that's kind of my North Star. I adore my mom, my sister, my daughter, my husband, and my dog, of course. That's Luna. She's my baby. And that's my daughter right there with the red on right there. So lastly, I'm also the president of Fem City International of West Hartford, which is an international women's networking group, which is also a chamber member. And so that's also something that I absolutely love to do. So just a little bit about me. Okay, so I hope you didn't think that you were coming here so that we can talk about SMART goals, because we're not. This is the only time I'm going to say the word, because you can Google how to do SMART goals and sit down and figure it out yourself. That's not what I'm going to coach you on today or teach you about. So don't worry, it's not going to be dry. It's going to be fun. We're going to talk about how decision making and goal setting are super similar, and the best path to getting to create goals for 2025 that you have such conviction around, that you are so committed to, that there is no question that you're going to succeed. That I'm going to teach you tools and tips and tricks to say, so that you wake up in the morning and you're like, there's not a question, I'm going to do that, because I've put all these things into place to make sure that I do so. And I will say that Gina and Eileen were at my workshop. I had a workshop last night and the night before, so some of this stuff is going to be similar, but you'll learn some new stuff too, I promise. Okay, so decisions shape your reality. So I call myself an executive coach and a decision strategist, which is ridiculous because it's not even a thing, but I made it up. So what do? I teach people and really help them, like I shed a light on the fact that we have the power, every single one of us within us, to decide. It's like the most basic concept, but when you think about it and you really hold that like to your truth, you can do anything you want, right? So what decisions we've made in the past, every single one that we've made in the past has led us to this point in our life. Sitting here right now, January 9th, 2025, every decision you've made, I'm sure going from LA to Connecticut, right? That was a big decision. That has led you to this point right here, and you're where you're meant to be. So you're here. Now, here's the other thing. Understanding that and then moving that forward. Every decision you make from here on in is going to create your future. So, I mean, like, that's it. I could walk off this little stage and leave, and if you just take that with you, you're moving in the right direction. You have the power within you. So we want to make sure that we are living a life that we want to live. And when we talk about goals, where that comes in is goals are decisions. They're the decisions on what you're going to do moving forward. And I'm going to help you to remember some key principles that are super beneficial around that. So these are the principles that for decision making and goal setting. Number one is you have the power. You already have the power within you. So when you sit down to think about if maybe you've already done it, but I'm sure you're going to go and do it again after this. What are my goals for 2025? You have the power to do whatever it is that you want to do. That's it. There might be people that tell you, well, you really shouldn't do that. Are you really going to do that? I've never done that. Doesn't matter. You have the power within you to do it. So the other thing is permission. And this is one of my favorites. You already have permission. We have a tendency, not all of us, but I would love a little raise of hands if ever in your life you have looked around to be like looking for permission to do something. Maybe it's a little something that no one in your family has ever done before, or it seems a little bit like, I don't know, risky or whatever. You're afraid, but you already have permission within you to do it. You've got the power and you've got the permission, and I'm going to help you figure out how to get conviction around those decisions. Because a key to setting goals and a key to making decisions that you feel really good about is to have clarity around why you're doing the thing. Clarity around why you're making the decision. That clarity brings you to having that conviction and that confidence where you're like, I made the decision, I did all the things, that's what I'm doing. And if somebody comes up to you and is like, really? And you're like, yeah, really. Because you already know why you're doing it. You feel comfortable with it. You don't have to make excuses. You don't have to explain yourself. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, so what is the cost of not making decisions? What is the cost of not sitting down to decide your goals? What is the cost? It's huge. It's huge. So if you haven't done your goals for this year, or if that's just not something that you normally do, I want you to think about this. You are going to miss opportunities. There is so much opportunity for all of us out there. Personal life, professional life, you name it, the opportunities are out there. And do you want to leave those on the table? Right? Like I always think to myself, and I think like I talk with my clients and my family, it's like imagine yourself in the rocking chair at 98 or 102 or maybe 120 years old, because God knows with all the work that these fabulous women are doing, they're going to help us stay young longer. Do you want to sit there and think, God, I wish I had, or I can't believe I didn't, or why didn't I try? No. I have goosebumps, and when I have goosebumps, that means it's a powerful message. Do you want to leave that unfilled potential on the table? No way. And sit there and think, wow, when I really had this opportunity, I could have done this. Why was I so afraid? Why did I care what people thought? Right? Why was I afraid to fail? Failure is fun. Let me tell you, that's a whole nother story. You also compromise your self-confidence if you don't go for it, right? Because then you're like, well, I didn't do it. I guess I just don't do those things. I don't have the nerve. I don't have the confidence. I don't have the power, whatever it is. And also regret. And that is also probably, if you decide wasn't my mantra that I love so much, it would be regret. Do not live a life with regrets. Again, that's sitting in that rocking chair thinking, why didn't I do this? Okay, so now we're going to get into the good stuff. My coaching program is called the You Decide Framework. And so I'm going to show you how you can make decisions with conviction and clarity, set your goals so that you are super committed to them with this framework. So it's reset, reimagine, and reemerge. And the little bullseye there, that's where the goals come in, right? That's where you do this work, you create the goals, and then you make your plan. So I'm going to walk you through this. Okay, so number one, you want to gain clarity, okay? Okay, I'm gonna get my goals for 2025. I'm gonna make some tea. I'm gonna do a meditation. I'm gonna do some stretching. All right, I've got my paper or my computer, whatever it is that you want. The very first thing that you want to do is get crystal clear. Crystal clear on what is most important to you January 2025. Believe it or not, and I'm sure that probably 90% of the people in this room know what I'm talking about. What you want in January of 2025 is probably pretty different from what you wanted January 24, different than what you wanted January 23, but yet we have a tendency to just keep those things with us. But if you act on what was important to you 6 months ago or a year ago or whatever, then your decisions and your goals are not going to be aligned with what you really want. So gaining clarity, understanding, what are my core values? What's most important to me? So one of the exercises that we do at the workshop that I really love because it helps to peel back the onion kind of naturally around where you're at is to make a list of your accomplishments in the past year. When you start to do your making decisions and setting goals from a place of celebration, where you're like, I am such a badass. Like you look at the list of things you did and you're like, oh my God, right? Isn't it a really helpful exercise? Because then we think about it like, wow, I did all these things. Of course I can do those things. Of course that goal's not too big. Of course I should make that jump. I want you, this is what I said at my workshops. I want you to write down, but I want you to think about what lessons did you learn in 2024? There's so many amazing nuggets if you really reflect on what you learned. And I have a red patent leather toolkit. It says tools in white. It's fake, it's in my head. But I take my lessons learned and I make sure I put them in my toolkit. I don't want to leave them. I don't want to forget about them. I want to carry them with me so that I don't make the same mistakes more than once. So that something that I did really well, I continue to do and do even better. Then I want you to think about like what baggage, what just crap happened in 2024 that you absolutely are intentionally not going to bring with you. You are not. It's not coming into 25. It's not welcome. When we do our workshops, I always put I call it baggage to burn. I put it at the bottom of the workbook so people can tear it out. And when they get home, burn that crap. Okay? And then I really encourage people to write down their strengths, things that they love to do, and receipts. So what do I mean by a receipt? A receipt is all the amazing things that you've done in your life. And I do this for myself, and I encourage people to write it down and then to take it one step further and to put it in their notes in their phone. Because let's say you create all these amazing goals and you have all these great things that you're doing, inevitably you're gonna have a day where your motivation's low, where you're kind of feeling some self-doubt, you're comparing yourself to somebody else, you're like, you know what, this sucks, I can't do this. Your brain is not able to at that point say to you, but you're amazing, but you did all the things. So you can pick up your phone and go to your notes and go, oh yeah, yep, I am badass. And it doesn't fix everything all the time to look at that list, but it surely helps. It helps to get you out of that funk of self-doubt and all the things. And so ultimately, after doing all of that, you get to the point where you say, what are my priorities for this year, for this quarter, for this business, for this relationship, for this whatever? What are your core values, your priorities, what's most important? All three of those words mean the same thing. And what potentially are limiting beliefs that you have that you want to acknowledge that could potentially hold you back? Okay, so you have a goal of, I'm gonna give you one of mine. One of my goals is health, and I wanna lose weight. I wanna be healthier. And one of my limiting beliefs is, Julie, you have gone up and down in weight your entire life. Why in heaven's name are you gonna do it now? Because in 18 months, you're gonna weigh the same you do now. Like, that's my limiting belief, because that's kind of how my path has been. So I need to be aware of that. I need to put it in front of me and unpack it and go, okay, is this true? Well, yeah, it's happened before, but why can't this be different? What support, what accountability, so when you're setting those goals and you have limiting beliefs come up, don't push them down, because they're gonna end up like, a torn rotator cuff, because it ends up like a somatic situation. Think about it, acknowledge it, and deal with it. So does that make sense? That's the reset piece. Now you've done this, and now you're like, okay, I know who I am. I know what's most important to me. I know what could potentially be holding me back. Now is when you start to have this vision, right? And do you see, like, you can't just sit down and just write down your goals. You can, but all of this work that you do is just gonna ensure that you're successful. So what is my vision? What am I imagining for this next section of my life, this next chapter, based on what this exercise I've just done? I see what's important to me. I see what that looks like. I know what my strengths are. I know it could potentially be holding me back. What is it that I want to see? And I encourage, when you do this vision portion, is to get super specific about what each of those core values, what each of those looks like in your life in the next quarter or the next year, whatever time frame you decide to look at. The more specific you are, two things happen, at least two things, more than that, but one is, if you believe in the law of attraction and the universe and energy, the more specific you are, the more the universe is like, okay, yes, that and that and that and that and that for her, right? It gets crystal clear. You would never walk up to a deli counter and say, I'd like a sandwich and a bag of chips and something to drink. You just wouldn't. You'd say you want boar's head turkey and sourdough bread lightly toasted, and you have this whole thing. That's how you want to do this vision for yourself. And scientifically, when you know that and you know specifically what it is that you want, your reticular activating system, a part of your brain, starts to filter in those things that it knows you want. So if you've ever wanted a red Audi and you go test drive a red Audi and you go out for a drive and there's 70,000 red Audis on the highway, and you're like, what in God's name is going on? No, your brain is doing you a favor. It's filtering in that because it knows you want it. Your subconscious is like, I'm looking for that. So imagine that in your life. Opportunities, experiences, people, things just like come to you based on what it is that you want because you're more aware. It's kind of like magic. So so now that you've got your vision, now you can say, okay, what are my goals? How do I reach that vision? How do I create this reality? So a couple things to think about is I would start with 3 goals. If everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. So start with 3 juicy goals that are absolutely based on this vision, a vision that's absolutely based on what's most important to you so that you have clarity and alignment, right? That feels good. So again, you want to check and make sure they're aligned. Then I want you to think about what is your commitment level to each one. That is a huge deal, right? So if you look at one of your goals and your commitment level, you're like, it's probably 5. Okay, don't discount that. Get curious. Why is it 5? Is it because this goal is actually something that I know that my significant other really wanted us to do or me to do? Is it because I think that that's what I should be doing? Change it. Go back and change it and ask yourself, is it actually aligned to my core values? Maybe that's why you're not feeling the commitment. What behaviors may you need to start, stop, and continue related to those goals? This one's a big one. These next 3 are. What support or resources do you need? We don't ask for help enough. We just don't, right? Unless you're like, one of those people that's very needy. But I don't think we are in this room. We don't ask for help enough. Where would you maybe need help? For mine, which I can't believe I'm being this vulnerable, but whatever, we're gonna go with it. My weight, the losing weight thing. I want to have a morning routine. I want to get up and I want to exercise and I want to read my book and I want to meditate and all the things. You know what? I am having a conversation with my husband because the alarm goes off at 5 o'clock in the morning and he's cuddling. Loves me so much. He's so fabulous. Many of you know him. He's so wonderful. And that to him is a positive thing. But I'm like, babe, I really want to do this. So when the alarm goes off, like, give me a little kick. Like, just give me a smack of the butt. I don't care. Get me out of that bed. Help me get out of that bed. Don't cuddle me because I'll never leave. So that's what I'm saying. Like, who can you ask for help, right? And then what obstacles may you face? And I'm an optimist to the nth degree and also a realist. You have to think about what could potentially derail this. What could potentially derail it? One example I give is if someone's goal is to run a half marathon, they join a running club, that's one of their things, and every Saturday morning is their long run. And every other Friday night, their office goes out for happy hour. You have to make a decision, right, ahead of time to say, that's an obstacle, because I'm not gonna feel like running on Saturday morning if I'm going to happy hour. I know it sounds like a silly thing, but it resonates, right? Like, do you either not go? Do you ask the office to move it to Thursday? How can you mitigate that problem? So once you've done that, it's time to reemerge, which is to create your plan. So whatever your goal is, I want you to ask yourself, what is your why? And it may directly relate back to your core value, which is absolutely fine. The reason why that's important to really know your why is because we do not maintain motivation. Motivation waxes and wanes. Some days we wake up and we're like ready to absolutely take on the world, and some days we wake up and we're like, you're kidding me, right? So I want you to understand what your why is, because that will help you to stay motivated, to show up, to do the thing. And then I like to chunk things into months, and I like to not go further than a quarter, like 3 months, with my specific actions. Like the year-long goal could be very clear, but what can you do in 3 months? Because a lot changes in 3 months, right? So here are my goals for 3 months, and then at the end of that, you want to reevaluate in, say, March to say, okay, how did everything go, and what is a chunk of the next 3 months going to look like? Because if you plan out 12 months, things just, even if they move like a half a millimeter, like once a month, it still is significant after 12 months. And this is just a tool that I use in my workshops. And then I want you to celebrate, say what we do, business owners, busy people, high achievers, we do a great thing. Here's this great thing. Oh my God, we hit our revenue goals. Excellent. Okay, what's next? Oh, we got to get more clients. Okay, every time we do something great, we're on to the next thing. I want you to take time to celebrate your wins. Celebrate that you've stuck to it. Celebrate that you've held that commitment to yourself. And then another tool that, and I'll send this out when you send the email, I'll send the link to this out or the PDF. But this is something that I use every single Sunday. And it is so basic. And you don't have to follow this if you don't want to, but I encourage you to do a week in review every single week. Nothing complicated. What did I accomplish last week related to my goals, or even in addition to your goals, so you can celebrate them. You could be like, yes, amazing. Then I want you to say, okay, what lessons learned, what baggage, crap happened that I don't want to take into the next week, and what are my things that I'm going to do the following week? It is so powerful. Again, if you get off the trajectory just a little bit after a period of time, it's very, very far. So if you can keep yourself honest every week, then you'll stay on track, and it gives you the opportunity to celebrate every week. Lastly, I really want to talk about this. So you do all the things, you make these promises to yourself, you've set these goals, you've done all the things. I want you to think about this. When you make a commitment to your business partner, or your significant other, or your mom, or your best friend, what are the chances that you're not going to follow through for them? Pretty minimal, right? We always go out of our way for other people. These goals, those decisions, those are commitments to yourself. And you are the single most important person in your life, period. So I just want you to think about that. And I want you to, this is what I use at my workshops. It's a commitment to my next chapter. I'm going to do the things. I'm going to do my reflection. I'm going to find an accountability partner. I'm going to do it because I've made this promise to myself. And you don't want to leave this potential and these amazing opportunities on the table. So I just want to leave you with a couple things. So I want you to be committed to living a life with no regrets. And if that means that you have to picture me as a 104-year-old lady sitting in a rocking chair on a porch, that's what you have to do, okay? Think about it. You don't want to leave it on the table. And the power is within you. You have permission to pursue your dreams and your goals, a responsibility to create that life that excites you, okay? So that's that, but I wanted to let you know that I do have one more workshop on Tuesday. It's virtual. If anyone's interested, it's all of this, but much more deep, and you do your own writing of all the things and figuring out your stuff. So does anybody have any questions, comments? Has anybody done their 2025 goals yet? There's two things I would say. Number one is the week in review, like doing a weekly review of your goal. Like I would say be bold and make that your goal. If it's aligned to what's important to you, make it your goal. And then every week, evaluate how you're doing on that trajectory. If at some point you're not following up, you're not doing the things you said you were going to do, get curious. Why in God's name am I not doing this? Is it because it truly isn't that important to me? Is it because I said the goal was X, Y, and Z, but it's really Y, Z, A? It needs to shift a little bit. Just because you make something a goal doesn't mean that you can never change it. Something might happen in your life that you're like, oh, well, I thought I wanted that, but no, who said pivot? You did, pivot. You might have to pivot. So, you decide. This is why it's my mantra. I mean, you decide. But I would say, tell fear to suck it and put it on your list if that's what you really want to do.